Hey, everybody. We're going to kind of chitty chat here for just a few minutes while we're officially getting started. We're going to kind of chitty chat. The Purity Generate button is currently down, and Serpentius has just announced that they are working on it. So I'm anxiously waiting to generate all of my Purity. How about you guys? Are you over there clicking refresh like I am?
I live to click the generate purity button. That's been my life for the past. Has it been 2 weeks yet? Is it 1 week or is it
I don't know. I have lost track of time. Oh, I think it just worked. Yes. So everybody, the generate purity is up. So take this moment while we are getting ready to start chatting. Yes, to furiously refresh everything and click your purity. And it is 8 o'clock EST, which means that your instants are up as well. If you can't tell, we're probably going to be talking most of the stream tonight about the Syrian plague event. And I am one of... Yes. Oh, that sage instant. That's the best.
Indeed. Instant gratification.
Yep.
Do you know? Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, I don't even think I know what tier 2 you are.
I have 2 accounts that are paid for and have been in existence for a long time. And one of them is a plague doctor and the other one is an undertaker.
Nice. So you're all about trying to get that bar down.
You betcha, and we'll be talking about that here just shortly. But yeah, my Delethorus account is the plague doctor, of course. And apologies, I wasn't able to get into my getup tonight on time. But yeah,
it's all good. Look, I think we're all just sort of so plague ridden at this point. We're just not functional. Okay, so all of my purities generate. Oh, I have one more instant. I too have.
Don't slack off.
Yeah,
yep,
I know,
Devilkin.
Right?
No surprise that I'm a plague doctor at all, right? Given
it is not.
What a coincidence it is that that's what I choose to wear for my, ever since we started the live streams, and that actually it's becoming, or kind of like tied into and coincides with the Searing plague event. Alrighty,
yeah.
Kit, I think we've been we're about 5 minutes
okay,
past.
Hopefully everybody has gone ahead and clicked their buttons so we can go ahead and get started. So officially, welcome to the 21st episode of the Boardwall Broadcasting Company. Tonight we are focusing, as you can tell, mostly on the Syrian plague event, and we're going to be talking specifically about some community strategies. Towards the end of the show, we're also going to show off a premiere of something involving one of our community members. I think it's really exciting, so stay tuned for that. And just a really quick shout out to Aaron, who was our most recent backer on Patreon. Thank you for backing. That means a lot to us and helps us continue to make the products that we're making. So thank you very much, Aaron. Mel, real quick, and I'm going to be shooting that contest link that we have every week out into the chat, which you can get some EP. Mel, I wanted to show off really quick your winning emojis for the Boardwall emoji contest, just so people can get a peek at them. So if we can get those up on the screen. But Mel, what was your kind of thoughts? Why did you create the emojis that you did?
Well, I kind of like doing kind of the smaller, fun little projects like that. So I think Bernie was the one who had the contest, hosted the contest. So that just thought it'd be a fun thing to do for the community. And yeah, and a lot of the kind of categories are pretty self-explanatory. Like the I think King D's emoji for King, which is a plague mask with a crown on it, which that was kind of a no-brainer. And that was kind of the same thing with like, a combat, crafting, that sort of thing. I do really like our resident one though, because if everyone's seen our lore book or read our lore book, I think Dee did a live reading like way back when we first made it, and acorns are a part of the lore. So I made our resident emoji an acorn, which I think is adorable.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's really...
Yeah. So those will be getting uploaded into our thing soon. And what we have on the screen, I think we still have it up, is the last issue of the Boardwall Chronicles. And we did feature, we also have Mel's most recent art on there for the Zodiac. We're actually in the process of designing all 12 Zodiac, and we have started featuring horoscopes in that. So go ahead and check that out sometime, maybe after the stream if you haven't seen it already. So Dee, with the Searing Plague event, you know, we kind of had developed this strategy going in before we really knew a whole lot about the event. How has that changed over the course of this event getting launched?
Well, I think some people might be familiar with the flowchart that I created for our community before we started, and our basic strategy was to be able to cure as many members of Boardwall as possible, with the intent being that the more members of Boardwall that we had cured, the more pure people that we would have, therefore the more purity seals being generated, and the more purity seals you have generated, we can then go out further into the community, helping other members in the other kingdoms on NA East, be that Vornair or Elysia, Fortuna, Kairos, etc. And we didn't at that time know, fully how the roles were going to be working, how plague seals were going to be generated, etc., and the impact that tiers had. So, our initial goal changed to kind of like, wow, let's, instead of curing people, let's try and get the people who are pure up to tier 2 first. And while we've been getting people up to tier 2, nobody was really being cured. And I don't know how much or how significant of a contribution that has been to the outbreak bar, basically kind of like, climbing away from the cure bar. But we're now kind of like looking at readjusting our strategy and kind of like looking at what other groups and what other kingdoms and communities are doing within the Searing Plague in terms of an overall strategy, and we're shifting that somewhat. And I've got that basically summarized, I don't want to say summarized, but kind of like at least explained in a video, which will queue up here in just a moment. And apologies on the video, I had problems producing it today. So the audio part, I'm actually going to be doing live. All you're going to be seeing is the video part, and hopefully I won't get too out of sync on it. But yeah, whenever we're ready, we can queue that up. Alrighty, so what do we know about the Searing Plague event so far? Well, we do know that the outbreak bar is currently outpacing the cure bar by a considerable amount. Does this mean that we're all doomed? Well, that depends who you were talking to and when you last spoke to them. An interesting thing happened yesterday. Overall, the forward progress of the outbreak bar was significantly reduced. Now, I'm no statistician, but the graphs being produced even as recently as yesterday morning before the reset seemed to indicate that fighting the outbreak was a lost cause. And in this graph, you can see that the outbreak was trending to reach 100% within just a couple of weeks. After yesterday's reset, the outbreak bar was close to 40%. Undertakers and plague doctors in particular have been working so hard in reducing the outbreak bar that when it reset today, it still hadn't reached 40%. Today's data shows the outbreak bar still beating the cure bar by the time the event ends, but it also shows that very significant changes are occurring in terms of the fight against the Searing Plague. And we believe now that one of the key factors is the increasing number of plague doctors and undertakers. So we ask people who are active to consider doing the following things. Firstly, if you haven't done so already, be sure to read and understand each role. Huge shout out to Carawen and Elsie of Vornair, who put together an outstanding set of graphics explaining each role and its abilities in details. You'll find their thread sticked in the Searing Plague section of the COE forums. Second, and though it should be obvious, please remain active once cured. People are investing significant amounts of their time and effort in curing you and obtaining a free Illyrian package for you. Third, find people to trade with, be that within your own community, the COE Searing Plague forums, the COE Searing Plague Discord channels, and so on. And fourth, if you haven't reached tier 2 yet, consider becoming a plague doctor or an undertaker. Doing so and using those respective abilities will help hinder the growth of the outbreak bar. And the longer that we can stave it off and hopefully eventually beat the outbreak, the more people we can actually cure in the long run. Now, the biggest reason and excuse that I hear from folks who've worked hard to secure their Illyria package for them is that I don't have time to participate in the event. I can't log in every 4 hours, use my trade tokens, abilities, etc. Well, I'm going to show you how just logging in even once a day can help tremendously. We should all be familiar with the timers of the 24-hour event window by now, which resets once a day at 9 a.m. Pacific time. All times shown here are Pacific. Every 4 hours, the plague sign purity seal generator kicks in. And the following now holds true for every role, regardless of which one you decide to choose. The instant ability can be used 3 times a day every 24-hour cycle. The passive ability can be used twice a cycle during the 2 12-hour windows, and the trade ability once during the 24-hour cycle. It should also be understood the abilities have various levels of impact on the cure and outbreak bars, with instant abilities having relatively minor impact, passive abilities having moderate impact, and the trade ability having the most impact. Now that we understand these mechanics, let's go back to logging in at just once a day. The optimum time to log in would be during a window of time that would, say, cover 15 minutes before the reset and 15 minutes after. I personally know of folks who've streamlined things so efficiently with their trading partners that they can do it with a window of just 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after the reset. If you're able to log in once a day during this window that straddles the reset, you'll be able to use the following abilities. The 1 trade ability, the 2 passive abilities, by using one of them before the reset and the other one just after, and 2 of the 3 instant abilities, again by using 1 before the reset and 1 just after the reset, and 2 of the 6 windows for generating a purity seal using the same before and after reset mechanic. Be sure to, if possible, to trade for plague signs and purity seals before you use your passive and trade abilities, since using the maximum of 5 plague signs or 5 purity seals greatly increases the impact it has on the cure and the outbreak bars. So, can't be online during that window of time at 9 a.m. Pacific for the reset? Well, next best time is 9 p.m. Pacific. This still allows you to use the trade ability, both passive abilities, and generate 2 purity seals. Again, remember to trade for plague signs or purity seals before using the passive and trade abilities to maximize their impact. If you have to choose, use the maximum you have up to 5 on the trade ability, since that has more impact than the passive ability. And in the worst case scenario, if you can only log in once a day at some undetermined time due to work, family, social schedules, etc., prioritize trading for enough plague signs or purity seals to at least just use the trade ability, then use any remaining seals to use the passive ability, and lastly, the instant one. Even doing just this, you can still contribute to fighting the outbreak by using the trade ability, 1 passive ability, 1 instant ability, and generating a purity seal. Naturally, the more often you log in, the better. If you use this straddling technique, you actually only need to log in 3 times during the 24-hour cycle to hit every window. In short, stay active, establish a reliable means for trading, optimize when you can log in, and together we'll beat the outbreak. Thank you, everybody, for helping on this. And that should be the end of the video.
I'm sorry, I got caught up on the straddling technique, D. I think that's a great strategy we should all be using. So that was super informative. I'm hoping you're going to go back and do your voiceover so we can upload that to YouTube and get it out to people that are, kind of new to the game, because that's a really awesome, just brief explanation of it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that I'll try and get the audio sorted out on it tomorrow and maybe post it into the Searing Plague channel or a link to it. We'll have to check with SERP that would be okay to do, but I'll definitely post it in the in the Searing Plague section of the forums, etc.
Awesome.
We'll
Thank you.
definitely do that.
So, a couple of points in there. I've had a lot of people coming to me and they're like, I want to be more involved. I want to be more active. I just don't have the time. I have kids. I've got work, whatever. So some of the points that you laid out, like even if you can only log in once a day, you're still helping a little bit. And obviously, if you can get in those windows, that helps a lot more. And if you're plagued, it's super duper important that you do try to get in on that morning window, that 9 a.m. PST, so you can get your plague to somebody to clear before that. So I know that is early in the morning, depending on your time zone. So we try to keep some bank links up overnight so that people, before they go to bed, can at least clear as much as they can so the people that are active in the morning can get rid of it. How many people have we cured, Dee, in the Kingdom of Boardwall?
We're right now, we're right around the 100 mark, which I think is pretty phenomenal, given that I think the first 3, 4, 5 days we basically were, as I said, were hardly curing anybody. We were focusing on getting everybody up to tier 2.
Right. Yeah, and I know that my group was slow going at first. But Mel and I have kind of come up with a different strategy at this point. So Mel, our strategy has changed a little bit over time. Mel and I are co-leading a small group that's in Boardwall that's just kind of trying to cure people and push the bar at this point. We're remaining flexible. At this point, it's really looking like the community has started rallying together to push that cure bar. We know that there are at least somewhere around 6 to 8 rewards that we're going to get. We just got one in the wee hours of last night. I woke up at, I think it was 3 in the morning and looked at my phone and I was like, yes, I can go back to sleep now. And we're getting a book on cure, like curing skills in-game medical stuff. But there's going to be other stuff we're going to get in in-game title and immunity. So there's no telling what other stuff we might get. Do either of you have any maybe ideas or hopes for what we might get?
Well, I'd like to certainly see show up in the merchandise store, and obviously this is a rather selfish one that I'd like to see, but I'd love to see plague masks go up for sale.
That would be really awesome. So we don't have to design experience that, right? It would be cool to see it in game.
Exactly.
Mel, do you have a wish list item? Oh, Mel, you're muted.
It was bound to happen.
It
At
was
least it's over with
bound.
early, and you really didn't miss. You missed maybe 3 words. So we're doing well. I don't even have coffee tonight, so
It's all good.
yeah. So more than an item, it's more like an action I'd like to see as one of the maybe cure bar bonuses, and maybe something like immunizations type thing, where for maybe it's a period of time or a certain percentage of plagued maybe don't produce signs after they've been immunized for a certain period of time. I think that would be kind of a nice break in the plagues. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, we do need plague signs to use skills.
Some of us do, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that in our small group, we're kind of reducing our need for plague at this point. And I know a couple people in chat have mentioned trying to save sage abilities until the end so you can kind of use it to clear plague. We've got undertakers. Undertakers are great for clearing that last minute plague. So that's tough, but I do agree. I would like to see, for me, I'm hoping at some point we're going to double the amount of purity that we're generating. Like the cure is moving faster than the plague. As far as in-game items, maybe some sort of other animals or like a pet. Maybe we get one of those salamanders. No, oh no, never mind. I don't want one of those. They scare me. but maybe some sort of pet or reflecting the history item, the lore. The lore's been really great for this event so far. I've been really pleased with what's coming out about that. So as far as the strategies and all of that, how has this process of trying to lead a group been for you, Mel?
Rewarding but exhausting. It's
Neither of us
you
have
know.
slept in weeks.
No, we're just
Yeah.
I slept in this. I had a migraine last night, so I slept in this morning and I woke up, I think it was like 30, 45 minutes before reset, just in a full on panic. Like, I think I got up and immediately was in Discord and Nazem was like, chill out. I was like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah. I know. I have been waking myself up like in the middle of the night to make sure that I generate purity. So I have not been sleeping properly. But some major strategies. So at this point, what we've been doing is focusing on only getting one person a cure per day, basically, and it needs to be somebody that's really active and is going to help us fight fight for the cure and fight the plague back. And then the rest were kind of pushing to the bar at this point, and a lot of the community is starting to adapt that strategy as well, because we want to push for these milestones. And as the video showed, like the plague is growing faster than the cure right now. Did you have something there?
Yeah, something I wanted to mention on that, and I'm actually trying to bring up the community forums right now as we're bringing this up, is that rather than just pushing straight into the purity bar, there is also there are now several groups out there, and where basically it's kind of like it's a plague sign market, and bankers are coming in, they're gathering purity seals from their respective communities and coming in and buying up the plague signs so that they can then redistribute them back into their respective communities, and that those plague signs can be neutralized. Because what this does is it helps again hinder the growth of the outbreak bar. A major concern in all of these strategies is that if we allow the outbreak bar to reach certain milestones, it might trigger events where the outbreak starts spiraling out of control. So it shouldn't kind of like just be a race of, oh my gosh, we've got to get the cure bar, throw everything into the purity bar and the cure bar so that we can get it up quicker. But again, by utilizing our undertakers and utilizing our plague doctors, particularly in that window of time just before the reset, to push that outbreak bar back down. I can't stress enough how amazing it was to see that yesterday. I monitor the outbreak bar, on a daily basis. And as I'd mentioned earlier, I'm not a mathematician, but every day you see it go up, and it goes up kind of like, 4 percentage points, and we knock it back maybe 1%, 2% points. And the next day it goes up another 4%. So it's ever increasing. And the fact that yesterday morning it was at 40%, or just under 40%, and we knocked it back to, I think it was like 36.3 or somewhere thereabouts, so that when the plague reset again this morning and all the unused plague signs went back into the outbreak bar, it still didn't reach 40%. And who knows, maybe at 40%, there's another trigger. So we've been able to hold that off. And I think the more that we can do that with the undertakers and the plague doctors, whilst at the same time having our sages and the soldiers creating and generating as many purity seals as they can, curing more of the plagued people, so that in turn they're producing fewer plague signs. And at the same time, once they're cured, they now start becoming, undertakers or sages or plague doctors, etc. And even more more purity symbols are being generated. And one other thing I'd like to point out, I just noticed on this last reset, I normally generate as nobility. I was normally generating one plague sign every 4 hours, right? Every time, kind of like, we went through that little 4-hour tick. On this last one, which I was waiting for, because normally I allow 2 to accumulate, and then I use my instant, which gets rid of two plague signs. It didn't generate a plague sign for me. So I'm not sure if, maybe us getting to that 15% mark is now helping to reduce the number of plague signs that are being created amongst the nobility, or whether that's just coincidental.
Sure. And like something that we need to kind of keep in mind, it's been said we can't look at this as linear progression because it's not going to be that. And because ultimately there's a larger story that's being told here by the studio, we don't know what little tweaks might come along and what might be changing that's actually intentional, But paying attention to those things definitely is the best we can do right now, just to see what is developing and what is changing. And there's a lot of great groups right now that are out there that are theory crafting. There's think tanks, there's global initiatives, there's all kinds of things. I'm in a couple of different sorry, I'm laughing at a comment from Linear. We have all these big groups that are rallying together to push back the plague and push the cure bar, and we just really need to keep working together to make sure that that is happening. Because unfortunately, as I mentioned in an article in the last Boardwalk Chronicles issue, there are some people that just want to watch the world burn. And the pro plaguers, for some reason, don't want us to get to the awesome rewards that the studio has. And, this is something that I get really curious about, because the studio's come on record multiple times and said, like, the plague is not something we want. The plague is not going to be fabulous, and it's not going to be particularly fun. It'll certainly be more challenging, but going cure is the way to go. We get more people packages, we have more opportunities towards the end to get people packages, bring our friends into the community, get free stuff in the game, get all this cool stuff. Like, it's a great opportunity to get more people involved with the studio. The studio is being very generous with this. Each time we cure somebody, they're giving away $45 worth of free stuff. Like, you honor that, because I think that that's really the right thing to do in this case. And it's a really, really awesome thing that they're doing. Harbinger just did a shout out. Thanks D for the free account for the Pure. It's so awesome to see people coming together. And I guess I'm kind of disappointed that there are people that are taking the other side, because that other side was already going to exist, and it wasn't meant to be a side that was taken. It was meant to be a side that we all try and come together as a big unit to help. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit surprised. Not that there are people that are pro plague, but that because I think that was always to be expected. But that there are so many of them, and that they're so organized. I'm obviously for procuring the plague, but I think I think it's great actually to see this other side, because again, it's part of the story, isn't it? It's part of how it's all kind of like unraveling, and in some places and coming together in others. To me, it's it's all part of this this background to what the world of Illyria is going to be like.
Yeah, Mel, any thoughts from you?
I agree with Dee. I'm surprised by how organized it was. I'm not overly surprised, because for the majority of the plagued, they don't have packages, right? That's why they're plagued. So they're not actually actively invested in the cure. They don't really have anything to lose because they don't have a package as of yet to even play. So I can, from that perspective, I can kind of understand it. But that's really as far as my understanding go. I find it baffling,
Right.
the other side of it, but
Right, exactly. So just some real quick strategies, if anybody's curious kind of how, at least on Mel and my team that we're organizing things. we have channels for plague links and purity links where people can bank. And we basically try to keep those updated as much as we can. We have roles for people so we can tag them when there's appropriate strategies being kind of released. And we have different team members that check in with people just to get them organized in a smaller group. You know, when you're working in a group of like 400 people, it's really hard to strategize on a smaller scale. So I have heard some other communities are working with some, like kind of having sort of a hierarchy where there's someone that kind of oversees the leaders of the teams, and then the teams have leaders and they're overseeing sort of like their little crew that's overseeing different subsects. So like in our team, we have a coordinator, a plague coordinators, who I am so thankful for because they're who goes and nags the plagued. And then Mel and I and another person who's our overnight manager nag our pure people to make sure that they are using their trade links and such. So we kind of have different people on different timelines to make sure that we're being as effective as we can. So the more you can organize your team and sort of delegate appropriately, I think the quicker that you're going to get to where you can tier people up and get to carrying people. So any notes before I sort of segue into our next thing? We are going to come back to some questions, some more questions from the community here in a little bit, and I'm going to send out that contest link real quick. Any other tips though right now?
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you're looking for a trading partner, it can be very, very beneficial to, for example, you know, sometimes just in terms of using the abilities part, is that, you know, some people's passive ability is to send tokens and another one is to receive token. And so, and when I say token, I mean either, you know, the plague signs or the purity seals. And so what you can do is actually, with one trade, you can actually end up kind of like killing two birds with one stone. And in some cases, it syncs up that that very same people will do the return on the trade ability. So you can find that by actually doing just two trades, you use two abilities in on the one account and two abilities on the other, and so that kind of like helps to streamline it as well.
Sure, absolutely. So at this point, I'm seeing a lot of people, now that we're starting to push for Cure More, are starting to take some of those roles that weren't as popular early on. We have a lot of sages in the community now. So I think some people are starting to lean towards taking some of those other roles like Soldier or Undertaker at this point to help clear things away. Would you say that that's accurate, Dee?
I would. I'm certainly seeing, you know, a lot more people becoming, as I'd mentioned earlier, plague doctors and undertakers, and I really, really once again want to stress that this is, I think, going to be a key strategy to help kind of like contain the plague. I posted a link earlier to the global kind of like initiative for fighting the plague, to their Discord. I highly recommend. The guys on the Oceania server set that up. Shout outs to them for doing so. I think it was great that they took that strategy. And shout out to, you know, I know we kind of like not so much bump heads, but we're rivals, kind of like with Vornir on NA East. But I think they've been very, very proactive in terms of, you know, Sarowin, forgive me if I'm butchering your name, mate, has been incredibly proactive as well in terms of organizing kind of like the Undertaker group, with the idea to get, you know, at least 100 Undertakers fighting and coordinated to kind of like take care of a lot of these plague signs right before the reset.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Vornir's efforts, and they were the ones that spearheaded at least one of the think tanks. I know that there's kind of multiple floating around, but great job. I've loved working with Captain Sully in this too. He's been a great support with getting people rallied over in the main COE Discord as well. So I think that we're gonna go into our little goodie. Basically, guys, we need to rally together, and we have to have roles actively fighting the outbreak bar, pushing back the plague. If we don't have enough of these roles, these soldiers, undertakers, sages, and plague doctors pushing for the cure, doing each of their roles, the plague is going to overwhelm us, and one day the crows are going to come for you. So on that note, we are proud to present a music video that was released today by the band Kindred Crow, and it features Boardwalk community member Kane Dreamwalker, who is leader of the Dreamwalker tribe in Newell County. And I was the one who did the music video's makeup. So we will return after this. Please enjoy, and we will pick up with some questions from people that have participated in the contest. So here we go.
Smoking sky, blood to break, to bone, heart to harm, to hurt, to heal, wings to lift, to charm, to fly, crows to fill the smoking sky, blood to break, to bone, heart to harm, to hurt, to heal, wings to lift, to charm, to fly, crows to fill the smoking sky. One day the crows will come for you, black feathers in the sky. One day the crows will come for you, when the lies you live in die. One day the crows will come for you, black feathers in the sky. One day the crows will come for you, when the lies you live in die. When the lies you live in die.
All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and like I said, that was Kane Dreamwalker from Newell County, and I think it's thematically appropriate right now. Like we've gotta rally together and push this back. So I do have some community questions. that I enjoyed, and most of them are for D. Of course, they're for D. Everybody wants to talk to D. Um, so some of them I'm gonna kind of pick at, but I want to start with a nice, fun one from Winter D. What is your costume and is it handmade?
Oh, the costume is a mixture. The robe, which you don't get to see much of, is kind of like I just bought from kind of like a medieval online store. The plague mask was handcrafted. It's a custom made plague mask. I got that one on Etsy. I forget the name of the people. And then the cowl, I used to use the one on the monk robe, but I didn't like it. So again, I went on Etsy and looked at kind of like, leather cowls. And I found somebody who wasn't quite what I was looking for. And so I got in touch with the people and they custom made that one for me as well.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. So next question, and I think we can all kind of jump on this one a little bit. This one is from Galadenis. The great thing about the Searing Plague event is that we've been able to bring a lot of new folks to the game. Our community has significantly grown in size due to this, with many of them earning a copy of the game. With this expanded community, what are some of your thoughts on how we can approach this opportunity in order to help introduce the newcomers to the community, as well as bring the Boardwall community closer together? So my quick answer to that would just be that I think we can use the opportunity of the coordination as sort of a practice to bring us closer together, to sort of see how, even though there are different groups that are kind of doing their own thing, we're all doing it for a core purpose and we're still strategizing on a larger scale. So that's going to kind of be how it's going to operate in the game. Mel, you got any tips on how it could bring the community close together?
It's been really good to kind of suss out the group dynamics, because it's essentially a one giant problem solving collaborative thing. So just seeing who works well together, who doesn't, that sort of thing. And thankfully, we haven't really had any instances of people not working well together. So, 3 cheers for our group, or Boardwall at least so far that I've heard of. But yeah, and it's been a good excuse to get everyone active, everyone talking, everyone, maybe because you're trading with someone, you're talking to someone who you hadn't talked to before because they're just the one that happens to be on at the time. So it's been really good for bringing different groups together, bringing different people together, even though they're already in the same kingdom.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm giggling because of Clan Oriana over there saying that they just noticed the butts. Every episode is somebody that sort of
Oh, and the shield
spots
wall?
them again.
Wasn't it
Yes.
Serp last
Yeah.
time?
It was surplus
It was
last
Serp
time.
last time, and somebody else recently just noticed it. I can't remember who it was. D, any comments on how this can bring people closer together in Boardwall?
Yeah, definitely so. And I purposefully, certainly during these first 2 weeks of the event, have actually kind of like laid low. And the reason for that is not just because I'm a lazy bastard, which I certainly am at times. It's because I think that this is the first time that we've had a real opportunity for the various groups, be that the various communities, guilds, counties, duchies, etc., within Boardwall, to actually function independently, which is something that is very, very core to just our philosophy as a kingdom, is this sovereignty. And it has been interesting to see how, instead of kind of like having a kingdom imposed mandate or structure saying, you must have this many people on your team, and we're going to have this many coordinators and this many sages and this many undertakers, etc., to basically to allow it to evolve almost organically, and see how each individual team has come up with solving a solution. Because what this has done is, instead of kind of like having one system and people finding fault with one system, is we've been able to kind of like, people have introduced varying systems and we've been able to pick and choose the best out of them. and that's kind of like accelerate in again. Kudos and shout out to Shady and Straw Hat and the entire team in Ceruleum, with just what an amazing job that they have done. I think that one duchy has certainly cured as many people within the Boardwalk community as the rest of the other duchies put together. And so that was amazing and actually very unexpected and great to see, because then we can go to them and go, oh wow, look, what are you guys doing that is right, and let the rest kind of like adapt that if it sorts kind of like how they're doing their stuff. And so it's this, that's something that we will be carrying as a philosophy, throughout our community as we develop. The other thing that has been great is that leaders, people have stepped up as leaders with the kind of like the absence of me kind of like saying we'll be doing this, etc. Other people have stepped up and filled in that vacuum, and we've even had people that have joined us that aren't actually members of our kingdom, that have said, oh wow, I'm on this team, I joined this team, what if we do this, etc. And just seeing the community come together, seeing the different people who kind of like normally wouldn't necessarily talk to each other. I know that I've been chatting quite a bit with let's say, whether it's people within Vornair or Kairos or Alicia. Fortuna's been a little bit quiet, but it's opened up kind of like avenues of communication that normally wouldn't be there, and if anything has improved, I think, overall, at least speaking for NA East and speaking from the side of Boardwalk, it's kind of like it's improved our relationships with the other kingdoms for sure.
Absolutely. So Fortuna's been a little bit quiet. That comment tickled me. I am going to take one more question that each of us are going to answer. We are at about 8:50. Then I'm going to announce the winning question, because I think it kind of met our requirements for what we normally have, which is sort of like a creative or funny or something, but it's still really on topic. So I will announce that one here. So our last question before we get into the winner is from Papa. This was a forum question. So I don't know that Papa is watching, but do you believe we can still find a cure before the plague decimates Illyria permanently? I'm going to say yes, I do think that we can find the cure. Why? Because right now this community is not willing to give up. I have not seen, I've seen people complain. I have complained because I'm not getting sleep because I am up all the time trying to generate purity. But it's been a great experience overall, and everybody, no matter what their frustrations are or what they're going through, like the people that are here, I feel like are going to stay here for the rest of the event, and we're pushing. So I think we're going to make it to the cure. Painted Goblin, what is an understatement? Is it about me not sleeping? Oh goodness. More on that later. Mel, do you think we're going to get the cure?
Optimistically, yes, but I definitely don't think it'll be easy. I think we need to continue to get more people active and pure, and I think Dee's video will be a huge help in getting people to make as big an impact as possible in as little time as possible during the day. So optimistically, yeah, I think it's possible, but I don't think we'll be sleeping for another few weeks. So
Probably not. I'm taking a vacation towards the end of this, and I'm like trying to decide what I'm going to do. Like, am I going to take a break from the event and just kind of quietly be in the background?
and we're gonna have wine and watch movies. But that's,
Yeah.
you won't talk to anyone. It'll be great.
No, we're gonna go rogue after this. Dee, do you think we're gonna get to the cure?
It's a tough one because I don't think any of us know kind of like what the mini events are along the way, and does even triggering a mini event, is it in our favor or is it not in our favor? I mean, if we start kind of like halting and arresting the outbreak bar and start moving ahead of it and triggering events. Could one of the possibilities be that if we're X amount ahead of the outbreak bar, that that somehow it boom, it triggers a new fresh outbreak or something like that to have the outbreak bar catch up. So I think it's, although kind of like it seems, that the outbreak bar is way ahead of us at the moment, I see the outbreak bar being kind of like held a little bit where it is, the purity bar catching up to it. And as they start to get neck and neck, I think we're going to see some very, very interesting mini events and triggers that we're going to have to react to. And probably quicker than the 2 weeks it has taken us to figure out that, oh my God, we need to be having more undertakers and plague doctors.
For sure. So I definitely think overall the biggest thing we need to be doing is keeping appraised of the strategy, paying attention to the trends, using the great resources that people are putting out, bringing our friends on board who don't mind, getting a package right now, and they don't want to wait to be cured, but want to go ahead and be participating as pure right now, and keep curing the people that are trying to get the package, because maybe financially they can't go ahead and buy one. So our winning question, and then we're going to kind of wrap up on this question, was Lanier. D, have you been preparing for the Searing plague in secret since you first donned the plague mask?
The answer to that is no. I think that I had the plague mask before I knew that there was going to be, some sort of plague in Illyria. It was just more, the plague mask was more just a way to cover my ugly mug for the videos rather than anything tied into Chronicles of Illyria. But as I say, it's dovetailed together rather nicely.
You're beautiful, at least on the inside, D. We have no idea what you look like, so we can't comment on that, but we know you're beautiful on the inside. All right, so congrats, Lanier, for that question. I thought that was a fun one, and it was still on topic. So we are pretty much done for the evening. If anybody wants to join over in the main Chronicles of Illyria Discord, we often have a couple people that pop over into, and we forget this literally every week. This is a routine. We have to forget it so that we can tab over and look at it. It is the official topics,
It's the
inn.
Yeah.
Yep, COE topics, the
Every
inn.
time.
I'll be there in about 5 minutes, but I'll only be able to stay for about 10-15 minutes tonight because I'm running late on supper. But yeah, we'll see you guys there in 5.
Yep. So thank you guys for tuning in. Congrats to Lanier, and thank you for all of you who sent in questions. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And keep fighting the gosh darn plague. No plague, only cure. Oh, and check out our Patreon. Have a good night.
Night, guys.
Good night, all.